Yes.
I can't see me. I don't know whether you can see me, but I'm obviously you can hear me, so that's adequate.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, great.
Maybe your camera's not working.
I don't know why my camera's not
It
working.
doesn't matter as long as you can be there.
And can you see my screen? I'm sharing a screen.
Yes, I can see the screen, and I just see. I mean, only you and Kevin are the only people that I'm able to see.
Right. Yeah, we're the only two with our cameras on, but
My camera's
that's
on.
fine.
No quite.
All right. Well, we'll get started. We're here to talk about the traffic calming project on 18th Avenue South. So thank you all for joining this morning to learn about what NDOT has prepared and how this program works. My name is Amy Birch. I am a traffic engineer, transportation planner, and consultant that works with NDOT to facilitate the traffic calming program. So this morning we're going to go over a little background information about what traffic calming is, how your street was selected, and then we're going to talk about what's in our toolbox, our measures that we use to slow traffic down on residential streets. And then we have prepared a concept plan to present to you all to get some feedback, see if this is what you're thinking about would be helpful on your street. We think it would be a good project and a good solution, and then we will talk about next steps in the program.
Cool.
All right. So what is traffic calming? We call this the Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program, and it focuses on residential streets. And really, we're looking at physical solutions that encourage lower speeds over the length of the street. And this program primarily targets speed reduction. So we often talk about the 3 E's of traffic calming being education, enforcement, and engineering. Education, part of that is these neighborhood meetings that we do to inform the public about projects coming on their street and how to navigate the streets with the new traffic calming measures, but also some external education that the department does about the benefits of slowing down on residential streets and how that relates to safety. Also, enforcement is the job that the police department does, and we know that the police department has a lot of jobs to cover, and they can't possibly be monitoring traffic and writing tickets on every residential street across the city. It's just not possible. So that's where engineering comes in, and that's what the job that NDOT is doing. That's what this program focuses on: is how do we modify the street or enhance the street to encourage slower speeds. We talk about safety and vision zero because we know that there's a strong correlation between the speed of a vehicle and a pedestrian's chance of survival if hit by a vehicle going these speeds. So at 25 miles per hour, which is the speed limit on 18th and also on all local residential streets in Nashville now, at 25 miles per hour, a pedestrian has an 89% chance of survival. But as speed increases, say up to 35 miles per hour, that chance of survival goes down to 68%. And then at 45 miles per hour, chance of survival goes down to 35%. So as you can see, there's a very strong correlation between speed and safety. And also, in addition to this, we know that a driver's ability to avoid a crash altogether is increased significantly at lower speeds. They have a longer time to react and slow down. The cone of vision is broader at lower speeds, so that's really for those reasons we really want speeds to be slower. Charlotte, do you mind think maybe muting, there's a little bit of feedback, but if you have questions, feel free to unmute.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I beg your pardon. I'll mute.
Thank you. So on the traffic calming program, we have a high demand for traffic calming. This map is just showing a, those pink lines on there show streets that are applied for traffic calming. As you can see, there's great demand, particularly in the denser areas where we have requests for traffic calming. So as of March of I think that should say 2024. As of March of 2024, we had over nearly 500 neighborhood streets that had applied for traffic calming. And that's when 18th Avenue was selected for traffic calming. So this program, based on budget that is allocated to it, selected 25 neighborhood streets for traffic calming out of those 480 streets. So 18th was one of those. I do want to point you in the direction of the Hub Nashville. If you have needs related to services and requests for all of Metro government, the Hub is a great tool and resource. What it does is it allows that service request to get to the right department and answered. So things like the street lights are out, or a sign's been knocked down, storm grate is clogged, and then creating flooding or something like that. The Hub is a great place to report those issues and get them resolved. You can reach the Hub by calling 311 during normal business hours, but also you can report these things online at hub.Nashville.gov or via an app you can download to your smartphone. And you get a service request number when you make that request, and so you can follow up on that. But back to traffic calming, I want to explain our prioritization process, because you may be wondering, we have 480 streets that have requested traffic calming. How do we select just the top 25? And that is a data-driven process that we have, and it looks at these 5 main criteria to determine those streets that rank the highest. So we look at vehicular speed. We go out and measure the speed and the volume on every street that's requested traffic calming. So we look at the 85th percentile speed over our desired speed, which is 25 miles per hour. And that's worth 45% of the score. Then we also look at volume. And we look at the daily volume, and that's worth 25% of the score. We also look at things like trip destinations. Is this street nearby to schools, libraries, parks, places where we would expect people that live on the street to want to be walking to and from or biking to and from. So that's worth 5% of the score. We look at non-driver accommodations. So does the street not have any sidewalks, or is it near, or does it have bikeways or a bus route or near a bus route where we would expect those non-drivers to be using the street? Then we also look back at some crash data and safety data, and we look at 10 years worth of data to see if there's been a pedestrian or bicycle injury or fatality on that street as a result of a traffic crash, and that's worth 10% of the score. So based on this, these metrics, we compare every street that's requested traffic calming and those that scored the highest are the ones that are selected for traffic calming. And like I said, in this round of selection, we've selected 25 streets, and 18th Avenue South was one of those. So I do want to show you a little bit of data that we have about your street, some of the characteristics of your street. And like we talked about earlier, this is 18th Avenue South between Division and Wedgwood Avenue. We measured the 85th percentile speed to be 30 miles per hour. The posted is 25. And I want to explain what the 85th percentile speed is. That is the speed that 85% of the traffic that we counted is going that speed or below. So it means that 15% of the traffic is going above that 30 miles per hour. So our desired speed is 25 because that's the posted speed limit. So there is some speeding going on that we identified on 18th. And then the volume, it's about 3,700 vehicles per day. That's the total of both directions. The street width varies. The northern blocks are a little wider, haven't been widened with development, I believe. So I think that's in the 41 feet wide. And then the southern portions are a little bit more narrow at 32 feet wide. Then we do have sidewalks on both sides. Very awesome to have sidewalks on both sides of your street. So that's great. There's on-street parking, and this is classified as a local street or local residential street. On-street parking kind of varies from block to block, whether it's both sides or on one side. And we do have a centerline stripe on this street. And several all-way stops. This is a map just showing the limits of our project between Division to the north, Wedgwood Avenue to the south. So it's about a 1 mile long section. It's right at 1 mile in length. This map is pulled directly from NDOT's online tracker map for traffic calming projects. And so we update this regularly based on the application windows, when streets are applied or selected, and where they are in the process. So 18th Avenue is in the meeting and design phase of the program. And so I've also just highlighted it in green, but you can see what other streets nearby have applied for traffic calming and where they are in the program. So let's talk about our toolkit. How do we achieve slower speeds? Our primary tool that we use, that NDOT uses, is speed cushions. These are rubberized modular devices that are arranged onto the pavement and drilled into the pavement. They are arranged such that they have a lesser impact on emergency response vehicles because of the gaps between them, because emergency vehicles like fire trucks and ambulances have a slightly wider wheelbase than a passenger car, so they're able to straddle these devices a little better. But passenger cars still are need to travel directly over them. So they're 3 inches in height at their tallest point. They're 6 feet wide, so that's wider than a wheelbase of a passenger car. And then, as you can see in these pictures, we can put them in different arrangements based on how what the characteristics of the street are. Is there striping on the street or bike lanes present? We'll often use those white delineator posts you probably see on lots of streets in Nashville to protect the bike lane if there's a bike lane on the street, keep drivers from trying to drive around and into the bike lane. So depending on the width of the street, we may arrange them in sets of 2 or 3, even 4 on wider streets. And when we install these, we are also pairing them with warning signage like you see in the picture on the top left. But these have markings on them, depending on how it fits on the roadway, but the markings are therefore visible at night. And then when we place these, we like to place them in a series. So typically that ranges from anywhere from 300 to 500 to 600 feet apart. 400 feet spacing is our kind of target, but we also need to look at things like driveway locations and street intersections. We can't put them right at driveways. We don't want people having to turn in and out of their driveway across a set of cushions. So we space them away from driveways. So that kind of comes into our design. Also grade, we can't put them on steeper grade, so we are looking at that when we're laying out our design. But these are effective. For the most part, we find that people who are applying for streets and neighborhoods that are applying for traffic calming, they kind of have this in mind, and it is an effective physical device. Speed tables are made of the same material, similar treatment as speed cushions, but instead of having the gaps for those emergency vehicles, they stretch the whole width of the street. And they're flat on top, as you can see in that picture. But the other characteristics are pretty similar to the speed cushions. We don't use these tables as much as cushions. Nashville NDOT has done some before and after studies of these vertical measures, the speed cushions specifically, to see how effective they have been. So these two graphs are showing before and after average speeds and or before and after speeds. And so the average speed before cushions were installed was 31 miles per hour on 6 streets that were measured. And then after the cushions were installed, the speeds went down to 22 miles per hour. That 85th percentile speed I spoke about earlier, that went from 37 miles per hour before the cushions were installed down to 25 miles per hour after. So you can see these are effective tools, and they're helping us achieve those slower speeds. Radar feedback signs are another tool in our toolbox that we use. And so it's just that, it's a sign. They're typically solar powered, but they're placed such that drivers can see their speed as they're approaching the speed limit sign. So they're paired usually with the speed limit sign. These can be effective as well, based on some before and after studies, reducing this 85th percentile speed up to 7 miles per hour. We often use them in places where we can't use speed cushions for whatever reason, be it grade or curvature or something like that. We also incorporate some pavement narrowing. Sometimes we'll have a street that's 30 feet wide or wider, and doesn't have any markings on it, so drivers have that feeling of being able to drive really fast, and so we'll incorporate some white edge line striping to just narrow the roadway width and kind of give that visual cue that it's narrower. Bulb outs are a tool we use at intersections sometimes, where the intersection's pretty wide and we can narrow that, and it reduces the crossing distance for pedestrians where we have crosswalks and so forth. This is just done with paint and with flexible delineator post. You can see in these pictures here how that kind of looks. It also helps. Sometimes we'll have situations where parking gets too close to intersections, and that decreases visibility, so that improves visibility at the intersection when we can keep parking from getting too close to the stop signs. Chicanes are a tool used. We have to have kind of the right situation, the right width of street, but it's a way to incorporate some horizontal curvature on an otherwise straight street. Usually when this is done, it's done by alternating on-street parking from side to side. An example of that near here, you're probably familiar with, is Fairfax Avenue, between 21st and Natchez Trace, and that's been in place for quite a long time. I think one of these pictures is of that street, but it causes drivers to slow down as they negotiate these kind of curves in the road. Traffic circles are a tool in our toolbox, and these are circular islands that are installed in an intersection, typically a four-legged intersection, and you navigate them similar to roundabouts, but just at much slower speeds. But creating that island in the middle of the intersection causes drivers to need to slow down as they negotiate through the intersection and navigate around it. We don't do traffic circles really often because we need all the right situation, kind of a wide intersection to incorporate that type of tool. So now I'm going to talk about 18th Avenue and the proposed plan we have put together. It's just a concept, and our intention is to present this to you all and get feedback, make sure we're on the right track before we move further into a more detailed design plan. So want to show this to you all. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute, ask those in the chat. I'm monitoring that as well, but you can unmute and ask questions too. But first, I'll orient you on where we are. I've divided the street because it's pretty long into two sections. So the top section is the south portion of the street. So it goes from Wedgwood on the left side of your screen to Edge Hill Avenue on the right side on that top section. And then on the bottom section, it goes from Edge Hill on the left side of the screen to Division Street on the right side of your screen. So north is to the right of the screen, if you will. So what we're showing is incorporating some speed cushions on the street at sort of strategically located places. The street has a lot of all-way stops already on it. So, you know, locations where people or drivers are supposed to be stopping, slowing down at those locations. So we've kind of incorporated the cushions in between the all-way stops along the street. And so depending on the width of the street and the presence of on-street parking would be how we arrange them as far as, you know, one cushion in each lane or across the whole width. We'll work through that in the design of, you know, the more detailed design, how that lays out, because we don't want drivers to be driving around the cushions and into parking and potentially hitting parked cars. So we will look at that. But so basically, starting from Wedgwood, and then we'll working north. From Wedgwood, we have one cushion set basically midway between Wedgwood and Capers. Then there's an all-way stop at Capers. Between Capers and DeFord Bailey Avenue. This section has some grade to it, and so I don't think we can put the cushions on there. We will measure this specifically in the field to confirm, but I do believe that the grade's too great to incorporate cushions on there. We don't have any identified there. And then between DeFord Bailey and Edge Hill Avenue, we have one set of cushions. Where we have the cushions, our spacing is pretty good. Meaning we're at that around 400 to 500 foot spacing between stop sign and cushion. So that works out really well there. And then going down to the lower part of the screen, from Edge Hill, we have an always stop there. And then between Edge Hill and Grand, two sets of cushions with pretty good spacing, around 400 feet. And then between Grand and Chet Atkins, we have one set of cushion. That's a shorter block. And then between Chet Atkins and Division, we have two sets of cushions. Those are spaced at about 300 feet apart from the always stop and then to each other. So just to remind you, these will kind of lay out in the road similar to this perhaps, because we have an always stop. We will be very mindful of on-street parking. I know that's a premium in this location. You can park on these, so we will probably extend them, you know, towards the edge of the roadway to keep drivers from trying to drive around, but they can be parked on. And then we will incorporate some warning signage with it. So I think I'll pause there, see if there are any questions that I can answer.
I have one just general question, Amy. The 6-foot wide cushions. Did you say earlier on that for most vehicles the wheel width is not that wide, so a driver cannot straddle those and not feel any bump?
That's correct. Passenger vehicles will their wheelbase is more narrow, so they'll have, when they drive on them straight on, they will have both wheels on. Now, some drivers will attempt to do one wheel on and one wheel off. Of course, that still slows them down.
Yeah.
We have lots of streets that don't have curb or sidewalk or anything on the edge, and drivers will try to drive around them on the, you know, grass shoulder. That still slows them down. You know, we don't want
I
that.
understand. Okay.
That, but yes,
All right.
correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess further to the same issue, which is these super large pickup trucks that people drive also have a sufficiently narrow wheelbase.
Correct. They're still going to be driving over them. And yeah, exactly.
Good, thanks. Great.
Got some feedback in the chat. Looks like some support for this plan. And so great. If there's no other questions, I'll move on so we can give you back your Saturday morning. So where we are in the program, this is kind of a flow chart of our program. There was an application, we discussed that earlier, that this street was applied for. It went through our process of prioritization, got selected because of the data points that we have on the street, and in comparison to all the other streets that have applied for, this one scored high enough and was selected based on budget that was allocated to the program at this time. So right now we're in this neighborhood meeting phase and concept design phase. From here, hearing good feedback about the plan, I think we will move into the design. We will do our more detailed field review and prepare a design that allows you to see exactly where the cushions are. It'll have measurements on there, you know, as far as like how far it is from, say, a driveway or an intersection. So you can look at more details on that. It will also show the arrangement of how they will fit into the roadway, whether it be sets of 3, 4, 2, and so forth. And then the signage will be on that plan. So that takes us a couple of months to put that together. And then from there, we can go straight into the online ballot phase. This is what NDOT uses to make sure that there's neighborhood support or for the plan for traffic calming before it goes into construction. I'm going to talk more detailed about the voting and the ballot and that on the next slides. But essentially, if 66% of the people who vote are in favor of the project, then we move it into the construction phase, which takes, after the vote is closed, 8 to 10 months to get it constructed. Now, you'll see this second optional neighborhood meeting. We're always happy to meet and share information about the project. But, you know, getting those set up and everything can take some time. There are often times when, you know, we present a concept and there's a lot of changes that need to happen based on the feedback we hear at this meeting. And so we'll need to have a second meeting then. I'm not, you know, hearing a lot of requests to change the plan. It sounds like the concept that we've shown looks good to those of you that are here. And so I don't think we need to have a second meeting, but that is an option. We can, finalize that at the end. You can be thinking about that. But I think we can go from here into our design plan and then into the balloting.
Right. Amy, I'm uncertain on the process. If there's, what would prompt the powers that be to change the review that you've displayed for us? I'm sorry, the design to change the design that we've seen.
We do meet with some neighborhoods and residents that maybe have a different idea about the traffic calming, like based on those tools that I showed. Maybe there is on-street parking on this street. It could be that maybe the speed cushions is not something this neighborhood wanted, and maybe you're more open to a chicane or something, and so we would do a new plan with that, and then want to share that again before we move it into ballot. I'm not hearing that from you all, but that's it. It's a possibility. So it's based on the feedback that we get at this meeting is whether.
Oh, okay. At this meeting, okay. But if I can just add a strong voice to preferences, using your data, ballpark 500 cars a day are going faster than 30 miles per hour. And I'm not surprised because, we have windows on 18th Avenue. We're out front often enough walking, but whatever it is, there are a ton of cars that are in overdrive in both directions on the stretch of 18th Avenue. We're between Grand and Edge Hill, but I've been around enough farther down towards Division. That applies to the whole stretch. It's just so if we can achieve 10 mile per hour slower speeds, which is the experience you've had with the cushions, I think that would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say the radar feedback signs they're temporary? They're there for a period of time, then they disappear?
No, the ones that we're talking about are permanently installed.
Would there be one of those at each of the locations where you've tentatively spaced the speed cushions?
No, we don't put those together because when the physical measures, the speed cushions are doing their job, then the radar feedback sign is not going to be necessary.
No, I mean, so would there be, if you use the feedback sign, would they replace?
Replace.
Well, this would be in addition to.
No, we wouldn't do it in addition to.
Gotcha.
No.
I understand. Okay. All right. No, I like the speed cushions.
Great.
All right. I'm going to sign off. This has been very helpful. I appreciate it.
We do have a balloting phase, so you're going to get a postcard to vote on the project. So
I'm just curious. Do you know how many mailers were sent out?
200.
All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, 6 or 7. Well, welcome to voter apathy. Okay.
Okay. One thing that I'll add, and that is that a significant apart from just the annoyance of having people roar by with or without mufflers, is that a lot of people during the Vanderbilt academic season, when Vanderbilt is fully staffed, are parking there and then directly walking across the street. So if anything, I can't speak for any other part of 18th Avenue, but where we are, which is opposite Scarrett Bennett, there is a significant component of people who are just sort of randomly walking across the street all along to get to cross Scarrett Bennett, to get over to Vanderbilt or to whatever. So if anything, I would even consider adding an additional speed limit, just because that component of people who are kind of randomly crossing the street to get over to Vanderbilt from where they're parking on the street.
Yeah, the way these are laid out, especially in that block, they're spaced at the spacing that I think is going to keep drivers from
Okay.
picking their speed back up between, because they're pretty close. They're 400 feet apart.
Yeah.
I mean, I trust your judgment, but I'm just sort of emphasizing that the people opening their doors, stopping traffic, running the risk of having somebody clip. It hasn't happened, thank God. But I trust your judgment. Never mind. I'll be quiet.
I appreciate the feedback. So let me talk about the balloting and where we go from here. So after we finish our design, and that'll take a couple of months, we'll get that posted onto NDOT's website, and then we send our ballots. And before we do that, we'll let your council members know, and Kevin, we will let you know that they're coming out, so you can just let people know as you see them that to look for them in the mail. But essentially, these ballot postcards have a unique ID on them, so that we can make sure we don't have like duplicate counts or duplicate votes, that sort of thing. The voting window is open for 6 weeks, so the closing date is on that mailer at the top. So you'll know when you receive that postcard when the closing is, and then respondents have the ability to vote yes or no. So if 66% of the respondents vote yes, then the project moves forward into construction. Now on this ballot card, there's also other information about, the fact that we will post the results online, not individual votes, of course, but just the results, so that you can check to see how it turned out. There's also, if there's anyone that's unable to vote online for any reason, there's a phone number to reach out to NDOT, but you can just use that QR code with your smartphone. It will allow you to access the plan that's posted online, so people can view the plan before voting. They know what they're voting on. And so we've probably balloted 150 streets or so now, and largely the votes are in favor of the project. Like well over 90% are pass the ballot and move on into the construction. So, but this is our process right now to make sure that there's support for the project. So who gets to vote? I'm showing in yellow. Ignore the red line through these properties, but I'm showing in yellow the properties that are eligible to vote, and that is so 18th to Division to Edge Hills on the left, and then on the right is Edge Hill to Wedgwood. But residential properties, churches, and schools, they get one vote. So if there's a property owner that owns multiple properties on the street, it's just they just get one vote. So it's all the properties that abut the affected right-of-way of 18th Avenue South, and then vacant properties, we don't count those, and then businesses are not eligible to vote. So overall, for this street, it's a long street, and several condo buildings on the street, so it's pretty dense residential. 211 eligible properties to vote, so they'll get the postcards that I showed on the previous screen. And that's that. Is there any questions about the balloting and the voting and how that works? We encourage you to vote as soon as you get your postcard. Let your neighbors know to do that, to look for it and to vote.
Hi, Amy. This is Councilmember Bo. I've received some inquiries from constituents that get the yellow postcard, and then they try to go to the link and it doesn't work. So is it because the window has not opened yet? Is that the issue? And then if they can't, is there a contact specifically they can call I just want to be able to
Yeah.
put them in the right direction.
Yeah, we will check into that, because I'm not aware of that happening. So thank you for letting us know. It could be, like the printing of the QR code or something gets smeared in the mail or something, and so it doesn't go there. The link in that blue box is also there, so you could manually type it in to, on a computer or smartphone, and type in the address and it should take you there. So it might be a, kind of a mail issue if the QR code is kind of damaged or something. But I'll look into that. But essentially, to
Thanks
answer
so
your
much.
question, it's the same link for all of our ballots. We don't have an individual one for each street, but we filter them and are able to tally them based on the unique ID code. So it should always be open. I'm sharing here our contact information for NDOT traffic calming as well as mine. Feel free to email me if you're wondering, if the ballots are out or coming out or something like that. And I do want to direct you to NDOT's website on traffic calming, TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov, or this QR code takes you there. That's where NDOT houses so much information about this program. The map that tracks the status of all of our traffic calming projects is there and updated regularly. Our program manual, information about the toolbox items that we discussed. All the meetings that are recorded and posted online can be accessed from this website. All of our plans that are, in the voting phase or the voting phase is closed are all posted on the website as well. And then the results of ballots are posted there after they close. So once the vote is closed for 18th Avenue South, we will tally those votes and put the results, if it's what percent was in favor and whether or not it passed is what's posted there. Are there any questions I can answer?
Not a question, but a comment. We live very near the always stop at Capers and 18th.
Mm-hmm.
And daily we see many people just driving through, not stopping at that stop sign, at those stop signs.
At Capers. Mm-hmm.
So you're right. If police could watch there at times and ticket people for running those signs, that might cut down on it. But we see people running those stop signs any time of the day and night.
So you can report that in the hub, and if NDOT will look at it to see if there's some additional signage that needs to go in there. But we can also look at that as we're doing our detailed design plan to see if there's some additional signage or markings. Sometimes we paint the stop or stop ahead on the pavement in advance of stop signs. So that may be something that could be incorporated into that intersection. Traffic control.
Amy, if I could add, I am 100% sympathetic. On the other hand, having been to numerous meetings and had numerous conversations formally with the police department or informally with officers, it's just the resources aren't there. I know everyone means well. I think this is a common comment you hear from people whenever it's appropriate and things come up, either anecdotally or formally. It's about the lack of enforcement for some of the basic traffic regulations that are meant to save lives. So all I can say is I'm sympathetic, and it'd be great if somebody came up with a magic bullet, but just pay attention. And whoever that was, I know that stop sign up at Capers, and I walk in that area, I ride my bike. Absolutely. But it's like that everywhere. And I'm not trying to diminish the importance of the
Right,
comments so much as to
right.
say wherever you can, wherever you can go with this, Amy, back within NDOT, it'll certainly be appreciated.
You-
Is that
yeah,
corner a candidate for having not a roundabout, but the circle? But it's kind of a small area, but perhaps it could be engineered in such a way that a traffic circle could prevent people, because I think they sort of sail up over the hill and down the other side.
Right. That's what I was kind of talking about is, it may be a visibility issue as you're driving maybe
Yes.
south, or there could be some additional warning signage or something that NDOT can incorporate into what's already there to just give more visibility to the intersection as drivers reach it. I'm familiar with that intersection, so in the hill, so I think we can look at that. I'm not sure about traffic circle being part of it because of the just the width of the street.
Yeah.
While it is kind of wide, I don't think it's wide enough. All right. Any other questions?
Were traffic tables considered? They seem to be less less jerky on the body than the
Tables.
cushions.
We mostly favor the cushions because of the emergency vehicle response, that it's less impactful for them. So that's what we would recommend on this street. Knowing that there's obviously hospitals nearby, so forth. All right, so this is our program flow chart. So like I said, we're going to move into design, and then we will let your council members know and lead applicant for the street know when those ballot postcards are being mailed. And after that 6-week window, we'll tally the results, and we'll also post those to the website. And then if the vote passes, if over 66 or at least 66% vote in favor of the project, we will move it into the construction queue. So the design plan will look much like what we showed in that concept. It will just have more details about the measurements and how wide the street is and the number of cushions and so forth. But it'll be roughly the same.
Thank you very much. This is such a pleasant introduction to local government being responsive to local problems. I'm really thrilled to see this.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to moving this along in our process, and we'll be in touch. But you have my contact information. If you have any questions, or if your neighbors have any questions, you can reach out. But we'll get moving then. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you everyone for attending today.
Bye. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Am I done? How do